Hi, everybody. Look down below. See the subscribe button? Go ahead and press it for me. Thank you so much for your support. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shannon Confidential. I am Shannon, your host, and Shannon Confidential is a podcast about life, love, and everything in between. And I cannot tell you how excited, I know I say it all the time, for this episode. It's about Akashic Records, and we are going to be speaking with Lisa Barnett with Akashic Knowing, which you see behind me. And she is quite incredible. She can tell you about your Akashic Records, which is the journey of your soul, where it's been, why you're here, what you've been doing. It tells you all about your past, the choices you've made. And you ever wonder if you kind of feel a little weird, or you fit in awkward situations, or something seems comfortable and I don't know, and you just don't get it? Well, that's the soul of your journey. And Lisa Barnett is going to be able to explain all of that to us. She's an author. She has a YouTube channel, Akashic Knowing. She is just an incredible. She has a school. I can't wait to just dive in with her. You're going to love her. I'm so excited. Can't wait to bring you Lisa Barnett with Akashic Knowing. Hey, everybody, here she is, Lisa Barnett with Akashic Knowing. So much to talk about. Lisa, welcome to Shannon Confidential. I cannot wait to talk to you and just let everybody meet you.
Thank you. I am thrilled to join you here and to just be able to share this wisdom with your listeners. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Wisdom it is there. I would say over the past 2 years, I have heard so much about Akashic Records and Akashic, and it's just, I am so incredibly intrigued by it. And then meeting you, I just thought, okay, I have to, this is my only link. This is the best link I'm ever going to have to figure out what all of this is. So please tell us all about yourself, and then we'll get into the Akashic Knowing and Akashic Records.
Okay, well, let's see. Always so much to say. So I've really been on this path all of my life. I was one of those kind of strange children who was born very awake. So I was 3 years old, and I realized consciously that I was trapped back in a body. And so I used to tell my mother, I want to go back. But, you know, poor mom, she was like, I don't know where you want to go back to.
Sorry, honey, it doesn't work that way.
Right. So I literally started studying spiritual books when I was a teenager. In high school, luckily, I was growing up in California at that point. It was like the early 70s. And there were books coming out about spirituality and all sorts of interesting aspects. And so that's what I did through high school and college. And then I realized at one point, which is a little further on, that these voices I was hearing were actually coming from the Akashic record keepers. And that really changed. At that point, I was working more as an intuitive healer. And at that point, it really changed my trajectory, because I realized that the information I was receiving was so vast and so profound that I literally said, okay, well, I love healing, but this is even bigger. So
yeah, I have so many questions with what you just said. I mean,
jump in with questions.
Okay, so I kind of get how you felt like as a kid. You were just odd. And I've always had this thing, I know this is going to sound so corny, but heck, what else can I say? That there was just a different purpose. Like there was something different. I always felt different. I was meant to do something, or I did, like, I don't know. It just was odd. And that hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all. So now you talk about, you did all this, spiritual learning and reading, and then you realized it was the Akashic readers?
Record keepers.
What is that? Just give me the 101,
Right. Yes, absolutely, which is always a perfect place to start. So what the Akashic Records are is the recording of your soul's journey through really all time-space continuum. So simply said, if you imagine that at some point your soul individuates from the pure source energy of one, and our souls say, I want to go on a journey, and source says, I want other experiences than just this bliss, which we always wonder about, but anyway. And so we individuate into souls and we go on a journey, and everything we do, every place. And so this is, again, another kind of abstract, big idea, which is there are many places, dimensions, planes, other worlds that we live in outside of Earth. And
incredible, just incredible. Now, just to interrupt you. So when you say, all right, I want to go on a journey, I want to do something, are these choices your soul makes? Or does someone say, okay, you're ready to head out again? Here's your plan.
No, we make the plan.
Okay.
So the record keeper. So not only do you have this recording of your soul's journey, so I like to imagine it as a big library, because I think it just helps us as people think, what does that mean? It's like, oh, imagine you have your own personal library and it's filled with thousands of books. And you have your own personal librarians, and they're there to assist you to find information from all of the different lifetimes you've lived. And so I call those librarians the record keepers.
Okay.
Right. And the Akashic Records is this big library.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Makes sense. So can you go on endless amounts of journeys, or just say maybe some people have been on millions and other people just go on hundreds? Like, how does that work?
Ooh, that's a great question. So the way I understand it is we really truly are infinite souls, which means that we last forever. And so most of us have been on whatever millions of journeys.
Big libraries.
Yeah, the librarians tell us that most people come to Earth at least, I'm going to say 600 to 800 times here on this planet alone, because we get stuck, or we did in the past, in these old karmic patterns. So we come to learn and to grow, to experience something that's much more challenging than a lot of other places or dimensions in the world. Yeah. And so we get stuck. So if you imagine that you maybe picked a challenge in your life, and instead of kind of working through it, so say you have a parent that's not a very nice person, that's, really kind of a unhappy, abusive kind of person. So you may love them anyway, because that's actually who you are, and what you wanted to do as a soul was to support that other soul through love. Okay. But most of us, being humans and not having any memory of what we were planning when we came here, we might go more to anger and hatred. We might run away when we're young. We may be really nasty people. We may turn out to be similar to our parents, because the overriding reason that we came, which was to really be the compassion, be the love, be the forgiveness, we don't get that. And so we kind of mess up the life. The plan doesn't go as planned. And we're now in a karmic pattern or cycle, which means that we'll come back and try again and try again and try again until we hopefully figure it out. And we all do eventually. So, I know so many beautiful souls who have been born into abusive families, and they love them anyway. Now, of course, as the record keepers, and everybody would say, get out of there if it's dangerous, but you can do your forgiveness work. You can see those people as divine souls also. Okay. Having an experience that for some reason they chose to have also.
Because it's their soul's journey as well. So they're choosing to be that bad parent or,
Right.
So what you said, when you said the word born. So when you choose your journey, does it always start with a birth? Are your parents really your parents? Like, how does that come together? If this soul's journey is meeting with your journey and you're born into this, how do the journeys entwine?
Right. Fabulous question. So the way the Akashic Record Keepers explain it is that before we come to Earth, now again, there really is no time space. So it seems like a long time before you're born, or maybe it's a minute, or maybe it's years, again, time. But in that plane, there isn't any. We make a plan and we say, okay, I'm going back to Earth. And this time I want to really support that person to work through their drug addiction or their abusive tendencies. I want to learn about that because I also would like to help other people who have those situations. And so there may be a kind of and purpose is an interesting and complicated thing to talk about it, but we choose to learn and grow so we can also share and support other people. So I may be born into an abusive family so that I can work through that, learn about forgiveness, learn about compassion, and maybe I'll go on to be a therapist, or maybe I will go work in a another sort of situation in the world. Or maybe I help my best friend who grew up in that kind of family and is suffering with the trauma of that experience. And I help just that one person, but that is enough, right?
So is your journey here it's always to learn something or to accomplish something or to make something better? Or is it just
all?
Okay. So your journey is always for a purpose. You don't just say, you know what, I'm just going to go back and fish for the rest of my life.
Right. If there are souls out there, I haven't met any of them. I do believe, and I have met a couple of people who have maybe a little bit of a simpler plan. But basically, your plan, when you write it, you're going to talk to many other souls who are also coming back. You would actually say, I want to go back and study, say, abuse. And so I'm looking for an abusive parent. And sometimes someone from your soul family, someone you have known and been with in many other lifetimes, will say, I'll be that for you. I've done that. I'll be the bad guy in this life. And I will also learn. And often that soul's intention is also to learn something more, possibly be able to be that miraculous example of someone who goes from, that kind of abusive tendency to waking up, having a miraculous awakening, realizing love. And, often people will find forgiveness in some way or other and transform.
This is just, oh my gosh, I'm just like, I'm on the edge of my seat. Seriously. So now I'm just so excited. I can't even think of the questions. I just, as you talk, I have these questions. I can't even get it out. I'm so excited. All right. So first, obviously, let's go back a little bit. You figured this out about yourself. How do you figure out, this is going to be twofold. First, you choose to come here, but like right now I'm here, but I have no memory of the choice to come here. Do you always forget, or is this something we're teaching each other to remember as is waking up? And how did you figure out what your journey was, and how fascinating was that? That's kind of two really big questions, but
yes. So we have chosen to have amnesia when we come to Earth. Otherwise, it would be so confusing. If you could remember like a dozen or more lifetimes when you were born, then it would be like, and why am I here now? What am I doing this time? Right. And so we built amnesia in. And there are energetically the vibration of the planet is awakening. So the energy of the planet is raising, which means that all of us who are on the planet are also, our energy is raising. And as that energy gets pushed into a higher frequency and vibration, we will tend to awaken. Now, this may take hundreds of years, or fingers crossed, a lot less.
Yes.
But that is why more and more and more people are actually waking up.
And what is the waking up?
So I think in the simplest answer is that we start to realize that there's more to life than just what we see in front of us. There's more to life than just making it through school, going to college if we're drawn that way, getting married, having kids, whatever our kind of teaching or training is in our family, in our group, in our country, depending on where we live in the world. But that there is more than just that little life, right? That I get a job, I make enough money so I can eat, so that I can, if I'm lucky, have a car and a nice house, or a house. We don't always have a roof over our heads, but just striving to survive. And that's the old paradigm that we've certainly been under for the last 1,000+ years. Now, over history, it's really gone up and down. I believe there's times in history where we were more consciously awake, and it's like we have a higher consciousness. There have been times, I believe, in history where the veil was thinner, which means that maybe we could see more of the angelic beings, or sometimes we could actually see the elemental beings, the fairies and the other beings, the unicorns, right?
Do you see this?
I have not seen them yet, but I am waiting with bated breath because I believe that's what we're seeing is the veil is thinning. And again, hopefully by 2030, hopefully by kind of the end of this 9-year cycle we're in, it will be thinner for many, many of us.
I'm writing
Not
down
everybody.
I'm going to put that date on my calendar.
Right. Yeah, it's a 9-year cycle. So this just started January of 2022.
Okay.
And this 9-year cycle is about creating a very solid and strong foundation for our lives, which is based in these higher vibrations and really consciousness, which is very much about being love, compassion, forgiveness, realizing that we are creators in our own right, and we are magnetic beings. So what we think, say, feel is really what we're creating and drawing into our lives. And
oh my God. So this is absolutely incredible. So is this something that's dimensional? Like there's like the whole dimension they say in Earth, there's 3D, 5D, 7D, like all of this we'll be able to see once we're awake.
Yes.
Is that
well, and
the same thing?
Yep. Yeah. So we're in this very third dimensional world. We've been here. We've been kind of locked down here energetically in this world of struggle and survival and fear for probably at least this round of humans, since we could go back about 12, 15,000 years and say, okay, since we've been on Earth progressing this way, we've been really in this kind of third dimensional world. It's just, very kind of mundane. But the truth is that as we move into the fourth and fifth dimension, I really believe we might start to see the elementals, the fairies, the angels, even the unicorns, which is like, I always look, I have hills outside of my window, and I'm like, when those unicorns ride over the hill, I know they'll know we're there. I will have arrived.
So tell me, what was, now that you've done your journey and your library, what was your past and how fascinating was that have been to know?
You mean all my past lives?
Well, did you have
lives or this life?
There's a lot of them, but like, just give me two.
Well, the one that really changed the trajectory of my life was that when I could start to actually hear these Akashic record keepers, my own librarians, speaking to me. And the funny thing is they actually kind of yelled at me for about 5 years before I figured out who was yelling. I'd be every time, every once in a while, I'd be doing kind of a psychic reading, energy healing for a client, and I get this huge, expansive information all about their lives and their plan and what they came to do. And I'd be like, wow, that was phenomenal. But it like never dawned on me to say, who are you? Why are you telling me this? Anyway, so it went on really hit or miss for 5 years until I finally did say, where's this information coming from? And they told me, and I knew at that point, I knew about the Akashic Records, which was already pretty weird 30 years ago. But I would go up to the record keepers and ask them to give my clients their highest Akashic energy and information they could hold after I cleared and did some energy healing for them. So I knew it was really important, and I knew of this realm. But I had been taught by my teacher that you could not go into the Akashic Records. You could only ask them to fill up your client. So the thing that happened in between there was the record keepers back in the dark ages, back around 1000 AD, had pulled the vibration of the Akashic field away from the earth so we could not access it any longer. And they did that because we misused it. We used the information to win wars, find people's gold or jewels or money. And so
we were very human.
We were very, and of course it was the dark ages, let's just say. So,
yeah.
So they said that, around probably a little earlier, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they were trying to bring the vibration back to Earth because we're moving into a new age, right? We have 26,000 year cycles of time, and that 26,000 year cycle was ending. That's what was considered 2012, the Mayan calendar, the end of the Mayan calendar. It was the end of a cycle. A new cycle was starting, which means that we're actually moving into a golden age again. So a way higher vibrational cycle for us to be in. So
it's fascinating.
All good news.
So you said it several times, we come back to Earth. Our soul comes back to Earth. We're on a journey.
Again and again, right?
Where were we? Where were we coming from?
So the multiverses, there are so many different dimensions and planes that when we, okay. And I want to finish the other story because I know I ran.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So many of us will go back if we're stuck and struggling with these karmic patterns. We will go back really to learn and to kind of study with these other souls who are not earthly, who are not embodied, and to understand, how did I mess that up so bad? How come I, couldn't get over my my abusive nature? How come I couldn't, get more conscious and more loving like I wanted to? What went wrong? What did I do? What can I do? Let's make a plan for another life. So we spent quite a bit of time there, but there's certainly just dimensions where we just get to hang out, I think, and create our own version of heaven, for lack of a better way to say it. I think there's many, many, many dimensions. And I know that some of us actually don't always come here. Some of us actually go to other planets or worlds where there are other souls living lives in different but similar, right? So you could imagine that those otherworldly beings, those starseeds, those extraterrestrials are us.
It's so cool.
It's living in a different body.
Interesting.
Right?
I could just listen to this for hours. In the weirdest way that I cannot explain, I get it.
Right. I would say that is because you too are this. And really what the this is to me is that there are thousands and thousands and probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of light workers who have come back to help this process, to help humanity become more conscious, to awaken.
Okay.
And you are that. You are doing that through your own work, your own show, and sharing wisdom with, a greater amount of humanity than somebody like me could speak to in a day, right? To share with thousands. And so light workers, basically so I'll wrap up the other story just really quickly, was that when I started to access the records, and the record keeper said to me, will you help us bring this information back to humanity? Will you start a school and teach this, because this is everyone's birthright? And I said, why me, right? I'm this mom in the suburbs. I literally had 3 babies. I had twins and their brother, who was just a year and a half older. So 3 babies.
Yeah.
Mildly overwhelmed. And I'm like, you got the wrong woman,
What's the universe? Huh?
Right. What are you guys thinking? Who am I? Why me? And they said, because you were one of us. And I said, what? Right? What does that mean? And they said, when you originally individuated from source, this is the funny story they told me. If you imagine that source is a high-rise building in New York City.
Okay.
And so when you individuate, you and another group of souls jump in the elevator and you come down to the ground floor. And you and that, 25 other now people, individuated souls, step out of source, step out of the high rise, and we go. And now this is my soul family. These are the people I'm going to run around with a lot for the rest of time. And we look at each other and go, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? There's buses and there's taxis and there's bicycles and people walking everywhere. And so they said, what my soul family did, we went for a walk down the street, and a couple blocks down, we bump into this humongous building, and it's not so tall, but it is a city block, right? Okay. And we say, let's go check that place out. We walk in and realize it is the New York City Library. It's this huge library. And we greet the librarians. And now this is a more galactic version of the Akashic Records. And we say, ooh, I want to learn stuff so I can figure out where I want to go and what I want to do. Okay. And then some of us learned and went on, and some of us stayed and actually became record keepers for other people. And so they said, you stayed with us for whatever amount of time, and we're a record keeper. And so you resonate with the energy, and we can talk to you, and you can channel our books and teach the workshops. We need someone in human form. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of busy, but I will do my best. And really, that's what I've been doing for the last 25 years. So just slowly working through doing readings. I had a little healing center here by my house in the suburbs, and, doing readings for people, and eventually teaching classes, eventually starting my own school and writing books. And so that's one life.
Unbelievable, Lisa. Oh my goodness. Now, since you are, I would say, far more awake than majority, can you tell that when someone's, well, I guess we're all souls then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not as if, you could pick out the soul or that person or that, because we kind of all are.
Well, right. So, what I would say I notice more is that souls who have been coming here for a very, very long time, or often souls who some of the newer souls are coming really to help us recreate our earth. And so the babies are going to have no karma. They're going to be newer to the planet, but they're still old souls. And so what I notice is that when people are really often kind of lost in the story, really stuck in the belief that this is it, this is all there is, you got to prove it, or it can't be real, you can't, there's nothing else there, you have to be able to feel it.
Yeah.
Those people are often certainly newer to the earth, and sometimes a newer soul. But again, because we have so many other lives in other planets, planes, and dimensions, many of the children who are coming to help us create this new earth, to help us build a fifth dimensional world without the old stories and the old paradigm and all the old, traumas. That's what we're trying to unravel, release, delete, clear, rebuild, right? And that's why the world looks so challenging right now, because a lot of times we need to see the old paradigms in order to change our mind about what we want to live in and how we want to build things. And then we need to figure out, how can we create something that works better? How can we create governments maybe that work better, banking, money that works better, how can we make money more even or fair around the world? Yeah, I mean, how can we change? These are huge, huge paradigms to change, and it will take a while.
Oh, gosh. So, okay. I don't even know what. Okay. So I'm sure people are, you've mentioned your school and you have the healing center. I'm sure people are thinking, oh my gosh, I need to speak to this woman. And I promise everybody listening, everything Lisa Barnett, you will be linked to. It'll be in the show notes below the post. But what is a reading? What do you do to help them, or to show them what their journey was, their Akashic record was? How do you lay down on the couch? Like, how do you do that?
Right. So the way it works is really very different than like a past life regression, where you would be actually regressed into a deep hypnotic trance and you could remember some of these lives. What I do is I can simply connect into a person's Akashic record, their library, and talk to their librarians, and really do the communicating for you, so you don't have to learn to. But I teach people to do it also, because it's a profound tool. But when I do it for people, I always want you to bring your questions. What's happening in your life? We always have things like, why did I pick that family? Am I on my path? Do I have purposes that I don't know about? How come I'm always challenged in my relationships? I've never, found a loving relationship. What can I know? What can I do? And so to me, a lot of it is about understanding what we were thinking before we embodied. So going back to that soul plan, who did you write soul contracts with? Are they support contracts? Are they karmic contracts, which isn't about punishment? Karma is really about learning and soul growth.
Okay.
And then what can we heal? What can we clear? What can we release? What can we detangle so that you can move ahead with much more ease and grace? And to me, that's like the big point, right? I want to make an easy life.
and is seriously, does this happen in one session? Because that's got to be like I'd say the light bulb moment, but so much more than that. You're like, I would say, think like every darkness, every question, every what the heck just gets lifted, and life has to be spectacular.
Well, honestly, I really wish I could say yes, miraculous, everybody walks out awake, but we're human. So
yeah.
So I often kind of say, if you're 50, if you've had then probably, 5 or 6 sessions would serve you to start to work through all the different stories, all the trauma, all that emotional pain from this lifetime. And I go back into other lifetimes. Where did it start? What can we clear? What soul contracts do you have? Are there karmic patterns attached? And so all of that takes some time. Yeah. And I'm super, super fast, but still, so.
Oh my God. I mean, is it like, maybe in a past life, I was a queen or I was a puppy? Like, or you always, can you be anything?
Well, right. If you imagine that most of us have had 400, 600, 800 lifetimes, you've done it all. Right. And so the record keepers told me last year, they said, well, you've actually been here 1,000 times. And I really, I'm like, am I that stupid? What is the story here?
Clearly, I'm not getting something.
But they said, no, you just keep coming back to help. And so we literally do have often people like you and I who are light workers, and I'm sure the listeners, anyone who's hung in this long, I'm sure is a very high vibrational soul who has come to help and support humanity to evolve. And so that is basically the definition of a light worker. We're often healers, but we may be therapists. We may be working in business or banking or lawyers to try and help the world from crumbling while we rebuild and reorganize. And so we've been mystics, we've been queens, we've been paupers, we've been killed for being healers, we've been the murderers. Honestly, we do it all. So that means that if I was burned at the stake for being a witch, which I know I was, more than once, because that Inquisition went on for about 500 years. It was a really terrible time in history. And again, we do it all. We go, I want to see what it's like to be the other side. Maybe I can go and be the judge and maybe I can change something. And maybe we end up, not. And it's about the soul growth because we know we're infinite. We live thousands and millions of lives here in other dimensions. And we're really in it, for the growth, for the learning, for the experience, because especially Earth has been very dense and challenging, but it's also so glorious in so many ways.
Yes. Yes. Oh, this is just absolutely, fascinating. So when you woke up, you were much younger. You said you were, this was years ago. You knew it when you were a child.
Right.
Right. So there's just a small, group of people that accept this, this whole mindset that you're talking about. Yeah. What in the world did you face that long ago trying to explain this to people?
Well, here is, the phenomenal bit. And this is like, I have to say, and I'll pat myself on the back and say, I wrote a good soul plan for what I came to do.
Okay.
So when I was 12, my parents moved from Chicago back to San Francisco. And that was 1969. And California was waking up, let's just say. And so when I really became conscious again, I could say, I want to read all these things. I want to take classes. There was, I never joined it, but there was a great psychic institute in San Francisco and on and on. Some of the great, Alan Watts was here. Some of the great spiritual thinkers and mystics and philosophers were literally here in the Bay Area. And so there was lots to learn and do. And really growing up here in that day and age, I would explain my weird theories to my friends and about reincarnation. And they were like, wow, that's interesting. so I was very blessed. Right. And so this is part of the kind of plan. Sometimes we are born, and we're like that black sheep in a family in Texas or wherever, North Dakota, where everybody thinks we're insane. And our plan is to raise the vibration of the family. And the intention is to help other people to wake up. And sometimes that works and often it doesn't. And so then we're like, okay, I've got to get out of Dodge. I think I'll move to California, right? Or wherever. And so it's, life, even our whole soul plan has lots of relationships that are supportive built in. Lots of ways and things and people we want to learn with and learn from and grow around. And those are the challenging relationships.
Okay.
And then we have purposes that we bring back as talents or gifts that we really want to share with humanity. So for one person, you might see that child who is the phenomenal pianist, and you just have to, almost, to me, I'm like, if you see a child playing some phenomenal music, to me, it's like, oh, I wonder who they were in their last life. They just came straight back and they haven't forgotten, and they're just bringing it right back through. And
Wow.
Some people do, which is kind of what I was trying to do when I was 3, and I was like, darn it, I'm in a body. What was I thinking?
I can tell you, I have very, very specific memories when I was a child, like pre-kindergarten. I can remember certain toys and just certain things, not like the entire thing. Right. But I cannot tell you at 3 years old, I was going, okay, what am I doing with this soul? Like, that's crazy in a good way.
Right. No, I know. No, it was. And I even say, it was, was a little challenging because I couldn't really even have a conversation. I'm 3, right? She's like, I want to go back, right? My mom's like, right. So luckily, and this is really what happens to for all the people who had similar experiences, and there are plenty of people. Usually we fall back asleep is kind of the way I say. We go on with our lives. The mundane takes over. We forget. So I was not aware of that in my my regular middle childhood years. It wasn't until I was about 13 when we had just moved to California, and my best friend that I had just left in Chicago was in the hospital and went in for brain surgery because she had a tumor.
Oh my goodness.
And my other best friend called and said, she's in a coma. And I thought, oh my God, I have to heal her, which is probably a pretty weird thing to think already. But it triggered the fact that I had been a healer and had come back to be a healer. And I felt like, I don't even know how. I mean, we're not even religious. I don't even know how to pray. And, I felt so helpless. So, it was very, very traumatic. And then when she passed the next day, I felt very responsible because I felt like I was supposed to heal her. Now, we write very unusual soul contracts with other souls to be the trigger to awakening. Now, I know that Marcia had her own soul path, and whatever her learning was, it was very short. Sometimes we finish really young with what we wanted to do. And there can be, complicated connections to the family, or, possibly part of our contract was that she wanted to trigger me to wake up again, so that I could wake up and help humanity. And that was her part of, that was her part to play. So
I'm sorry for her loss. I know it made you sad.
Yeah.
But, it's just amazing that was her journey, and it did what it did for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right.
Yeah. Now, so very, very, it's always very complicated. And then, as the story went on, as I started to study, I started to read all the books I could read. There was my favorite book. It was called Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. Okay. And Robert Monroe went on to start the Monroe Institute, which still exists. Robert died a long time ago, but that was like my version was, I just want to get out of the body. So Journeys Out of the Body was about astral projection. Fabulous books. They're still certainly around, the whole series. But that is what woke me up. And, then my other best friend, who is my other soul sister, died in a car accident.
Oh my
and
God.
So, yeah.
That's so
yeah.
sad. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, and so here's the interesting thing. In hindsight, it's not easy to do in the moment, but it definitely sent me into trauma and sent me down a huge rabbit hole. I decided I was going to skip the whole spiritual thing. I was minoring in philosophy at the university when she died. I said, I'm over it. I'm going to do whatever it is humans come to do. And I literally thought that way. What do people come to do? Make money, have fun, party. So, and I did that too, because it was the 70s in California. And so
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was out of control party. I became a bartender in San Francisco around 1970s, whatever, 8, something like that.
That's kind of a healer too.
Well, right, in its own right. But when I said many years later to the record keepers, after I found I could talk to them like one-on-one and actually have a whole conversation, I said, did I totally blow it? I could have been a healer at 20, right? I was awake at that point. I could have gone on and studied to be a healer and, whatever. By the time I was 40, I would have really,
you had it nailed.
I had it. And so did I just totally blow it? Because I did not go down that road until I was in my 30s. And then I had a bunch of kids and all that kind of stuff. I had my little healing center. But they said, the truth is that often these detours that we think we totally screwed up and took this crazy detour, it's part of the plan, because part of the plan is to be human, have these experiences, to be compassionate, to be understanding. They say, if you didn't have that kind of crazy 10 years there, you wouldn't have the compassion you have. You wouldn't understand people the way you understand people, because you hang around in bars till 2 o'clock in the morning. You learn a lot.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And I know you talk about the Akashic field. What is the Akashic field?
So the records are, of course, we all have our own library. So I would say you each have an Akashic record, the recording of your soul's journey. But it's a huge energetic field, and there are records of science, of other worlds and planets and everything, really. So it's a huge field. Most of us don't tap into, because again,
the size.
You're right. Who's got the time anyway? But to me, one of the reasons I do love doing readings and healing sessions is because what the record keepers asked me when they asked me to start a school, they said, you are a healer and we want you to teach people to do healing in their Akashic record, because it's in the quantum field, source energy, no time and space. Healing is profound. And so that is one of my purposes, of course, to be a healer and to teach people to do that for themselves through the records, and to do that for people, for my clients. So again, you have this, it's a huge field, it's quantum field, it's source energy, and the Akashic field area is only a part of, the all, but it is part of that source energy. So pure, divine, beautiful, unconditional love, opening your records, learning to open your records, or even having a reading and healing session with me, people usually feel the energy shift, because it is just pure love.
Oh, it sounds so. It's okay. Again, I told you I have a ton of questions. You use what you call the sacred prayer method. What is that?
Excuse me.
It's okay.
So when the record keeper said, will you help us bring this information back to humanity? And I'm like, that's, way too big of a project. Thank you. And they said, we will give you a system, right? We will teach you how to teach. And they said, and they did, it came out to be what we call the 5-step wisdom prayer system. So there's 5 steps. There's a prayer to set your intention to be a clear channel of the divine, of the Akashic Records. There is an access prayer, which is a energetic key to open the doors to the Akashic field. We then spend time actually working in the records, asking our own questions. And then there is a prayer to fill up with our highest Akashic light and wisdom. And then the final 5th step is to close and lock your own records with a closing prayer. And I call them prayers, they're really energetic keys, and they move you with ease really quickly into the field or out of the field when you're done.
This is just, oh my gosh, I am, okay. I just hope everybody listening is doing what I'm doing. This is incredible. Oh my gosh, I'm on the edge of my seat. So I know you've mentioned your school. Tell us about your school.
Yes. So the school is called Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom, and I teach people to access their own Akashic Records. I teach you the 5-step wisdom prayer system, and then I teach people to go deep into this energetic field so you can start to understand your soul's plan, which includes the soul contracts you wrote with other people, the gifts and talents you wanted to bring back from other lifetimes or other realms sometimes. We learn to heal and clear a lot of the pain, emotional pain and trauma that energetically blocks us from moving forward in our life. And so we talk about ancestral lineage, right? Our ancestral lineage can be very strongly connected to why we may have picked a specific family lineage to join.
Okay.
And so we go really deep into who you are through all these time-space continuums, all of these lifetimes, all of these relationships. Are these people part of my soul family? Do I have soul contracts with them? Are the contracts complete? And so the first program is really called Akashic Self-Mastery, because it's so important for people to understand and master their own life, so that they really can use this as a tool that we use on a regular basis, daily, many of us. And then I also teach people to become certified Akashic consultants. So if people are interested in starting a spiritual career, which I know so many people are now, right?
Yeah.
I have Akashic Career Mastery, where I teach you to read the records for other people and really to create and build a business for yourself. So 2 big programs.
Yes. Now, are these, when is it pertaining to your healings and the school, do you have to be with you? Is this something that can be done online? Do you do readings, over the phone? Like, how does it all work?
Absolutely. So I have been on the phone. I think I let my healing center go probably almost 10 years ago now. So everything is virtual. I have clients and students all over the world. I'm in California, but on a regular basis, I'm working with people in New Zealand, Australia, Europe, all over Europe. And I'm teaching my workshops on Zoom also, so that we can, connect that way. And if you're in Europe, or if you're not in the US, I'll often do sessions on Zoom also, just to make it easy, or on the phone. So yeah, you do not have to come to California.
So when we come here, when our souls come here and we have the amnesia, we don't realize we're here. We just know that we're here. But then you go and you see or learn your Akashic records. So now you know your past. Are you now a soul living here with the knowledge of your past? And is that difficult?
Absolutely. I think for many of us, one of the probably most profound experiences I've personally had, and so many of my students have shared with me, is when they learn to open their own records and they go and ask some question about, please show me a lifetime in which I was, say, I want to be a healer now, in which I was a healer.
Okay.
And we actually see, usually not just one, but 3, 4, 5, a dozen different lifetimes where we were healers in different places in the world, different, very different times. I spent a lot of time back in ancient Egypt myself. I have a very strong soul connection to that.
Okay.
When we go back and we can kind of see, feel, almost remember or embody that energy for a moment, it's like, wow, it's true. It gives you trust. You go, oh, it lets the doubt fade away, right? You're like, I know this. I've done this. I've got this. I can do this now.
Love this.
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay. So, okay. Now I just have another question. So I'm on my soul's journey. Am I always me? Did I always look like me? Or are you just different every time?
Different every time. Different. Most of us are, we do both male and female. Most of us have kind of a preference, I would say. So sometimes, like I've probably been, my preference isn't as huge, 60% female, 40% male. Some people are 50-50, 40-60, 70-30, whatever it is. It's pretty rare that someone is like a 90-10, but
Okay.
I've seen them, and sometimes that might be the woman who's really struggling with any kind of femininity because she's been a male 90% of her lifetimes on Earth, right? And then in other realms, we're not that either. So
this is wonderful and exciting and just amazing. It starts to make a little sense when you think about it. Just even the perspective you said, sometimes you're a man, sometimes you're a woman. It just, okay, I kind of get that. I get it's just, I don't know how to describe it. I get it.
Yeah, it's more of a feeling, right? So to me, one of the most powerful senses of our clairs, right? We have our clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, clairsentience, but the claircognizance is just a pure feeling of knowing, often very heart-centered, fourth chakra-centered. I just know it's true.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful when you go into your records and you maybe see an image of a lifetime in where you were that healer or that spiritual leader or teacher or whatever you were doing, and you just know the story and you can feel it in your body. And you're like, wow, and it does what I see it do is that it helps us to let go of a lot of our daily fear and doubt and worry. Just like it's so clear that you really came to be a light worker, that you are a communicator kind of by archetype, and you've come to communicate wisdom, spiritual wisdom, soul wisdom, but really just a higher wisdom in whatever realms that is. And that may vary through your life, right? Often those vary depending on what we're doing in the moment.
Yeah. Yes.
But when we know that, when we go, oh, that's true. I totally am right on purpose. Purpose isn't really a job description. It's a lot more of kind of a feeling and a gift or a talent that you have.
Oh, that makes sense. That does. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So, okay. And you also have a YouTube channel. So is this what you're doing? What are you doing on your YouTube channel?
Oh gosh. So I do a lot of different videos where I talk about all these different kind of topics in a little bit of a shorter frame. Sometimes it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes, or sometimes I do a 40-minute healing. I love to do group healing. And so I'll do some group healings and I'll post those because the energy is always there. It's connected to the Akashic field. It's not in a time or space. And so there's guided meditations there. There's other interviews, there's healing sessions. And so there's quite a different variety that I've been recording over the years. And so I just love to have that available for people so that they can go and learn more, read more about what they want, or watch more about what they're interested in. Like, yeah, if you're interested in your soul contracts, you might look for the soul contract pieces.
And everybody, this the podcast or the YouTube channel is Akashic Knowing, correct?
Correct.
And I'll make sure, again, underneath the post in the show notes will be the links to everything Lisa, everything Akashic Knowing, so you can get in touch with her and follow her and watch her videos and join her school. I mean, get a reading. This is just so fantastic. And you have books. You're an author.
Yes.
So tell us about your books.
I do. I have right now, I'm kind of laughing because my 2 books. So usually my one with all the Post-its in there, From Questioning to Knowing, it has 73 healing prayers that I channeled from the Akashic Records, and they're really to help you transform your life. Okay. So this answers all your questions. If you have like, what about my family? What about these feelings? What about all of these things I'm experiencing? I really write about that in From Questioning to Knowing. Okay. And then The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records is really my how-to book. And so it's a fabulous place. If you think, maybe I'll take a class with her, you're welcome to read the book first and see how that energy fits with you before you take an online, and I teach live classes and I have home study classes, but this gives you kind of the overview and lets you start to play with the 5-step wisdom prayer system. And then my newest book will be coming out this summer, hopefully. And that will be Awaken to Your Life Purpose, really understanding your soul's plan.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to dive into the books. I just want to, I'm like a sponge. I can't get enough of this information. I'm telling you, you have me just hook, line, and sinker. I am in this. I love it. I love this. I love this whole place.
Oh, no, thank you. It is really, very beautiful, powerful place. I think, especially now, people can resonate with it. People are thinking, what am I here to do? What more can I do? How do I get unhooked from some of these old stories and patterns? And that's really, to me, what the Akashic Records is all about, lining to your soul's plan. Who are you as an ancient and wise soul? And what did you come to do? Who did you come to support? And who is here to support you, right? Who is here to share this journey, this phenomenal journey, with you. And so we make those plans, and it's very useful to clear what no longer serves, our old traumas, our emotional pain, our old stories, so that we can move forward in this 9-year cycle, creating the new earth, creating your highest and best new life, because now we have a much more conscious ability to do that.
I love it. 2030 is the year. So everybody contact me. Come on, time's getting close. We have a lot of waking up to do.
We do.
Oh my gosh. You are just so spectacular. So you said your 3rd book is actually coming out this summer.
I think so. Yes.
Please.
We'll see how quickly we move it forward, but yes, I will.
Please let me know so I can help you get it out there. Let my viewers know, because I can just imagine, with 2030 and the 3rd book is, come on, you got to read it.
Yep.
This is incredible. So you are now awake. You heal, you have a school, you have videos to help people, you have 2 books going on a third. What is next for you?
Well, let's see. So I recorded my TEDx at the end of last year. And so I'm just waiting for that to get posted to the TEDx channel. So hopefully coming soon. And I am working with a group to create a book in their beautiful series on the Akasha. And so and hopefully that'll be out in 2023. So, keep the energy and keep the, moving forward, really getting into the flow and reaching more and more people, so more people can understand that, this isn't a one-shot deal. We're infinite souls, and we have a plan so that we can line up and get working on that soul plan.
This is so spectacular. What is the title of your TEDx? Do you know it?
Yes, it is Emotional Trauma Revisited.
Okay. All right.
And well, so the thing was, as I told you about losing my 2 best friends, and that trauma really took me into a deep dive into kind of a bit of a dark rabbit hole.
I can imagine.
And really the way I healed myself was by accessing the Akashic Records and understanding some of the whys and letting go of the guilt and the blame that I felt. And so many of us have things like survivor's guilt, all of that. Being able to work through all of that through the Akashic Records healed my trauma so that I could actually go forward and be the teacher that I am and share that wisdom, because I've had those experiences, which is, I think, so important for everyone to understand. And that's why I say, when I asked the record keepers, like, did I totally waste 10 years? Did I blow my life plan? And they were like, nope, that's all part of it. Right. So sometimes the challenges, that learning, that's the growth that we can then go forward and share and teach other people and help other people with that similar kind of challenge. And so that's why we all have our own unique challenges, so that we can learn around them and then share the wisdom that we get from that.
Oh my gosh, Lisa, let me tell you, if you lived on my block, I would never leave your house. I would be near you as much as possible. You are fascinating. You're inspirational beyond the norm. You really, even just the energy you have coming through the screen is tremendous. I would imagine, like, you walk down the street, just a flock of people behind you.
Lucky I live in a little small suburb.
You're a doll. I have just loved this time with you.
Oh, thank you. And I feel the same. You hold such a beautiful light and angelic energy, and just that perfect kind of, light worker here to help humanity. So thank you for being you and sharing this wisdom with your community.
Thank you. And you are very welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I have to tell you, Lisa with Akashic Knowing, you are tremendous. You are spectacular. I consider it an honor to have met you, to get to know you, to spend this time with you. I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to be on Shannon Confidential. I cannot wait to start editing this and get it out to everybody so they can see it and learn, and you can continue doing what you're here to do: teach and heal and help people.
Oh, thank you.